this is Dr. O'Hara, and I'm going to continue on with what I call the bonus round, where I'm going to go over the active and passive voice and anthropomorphism. Okay, so in APA style, the active voice is preferred because we like to have people doing the action whenever possible. But the passive voice does have its place, so I wanted to show you the difference and where each one would be applicable. So the reason why the passive voice is not preferred is because it's vague and it doesn't always identify the subject. But not knowing who the subject is can be an advantage, and so that's what I'm going to show you in this section. So first of all, the active voice is where the people do the action. So here Sam wrote the essay about the Affordable Care Act. So here's the subject, the verb, and the object here. In the passive voice, the order is flipped, and the object of the sentence comes first, and the verb is in this past tense here, and then who's doing the action is at the end. So the essay about the Affordable Care Act was written by Sam. Now, if you saw my little cartoon about the zombies, if you can substitute by zombies at the end of the sentence, then it's the passive voice. So the passive voice is using forms of to be with a past participle, whereas in the active voice, the action, it can be a present tense verb or a past tense verb. So what's anthropomorphism? It's giving human qualities to objects or non-humans. So only people or organizations can do action. So if I say here, a study conducted by Evans explored the predicted value of certain variables, study is the subject and explored is the verb. This is a descriptor about the study. So Evans is not doing the action in this sentence. The study is doing the action in this sentence, and that's what we want to avoid. So you have to think about the verbs that you're using with objects, because objects can't interpret, state, conclude, suggest, explore, examine, assess, deduce, determine, compare, support, analyze, provide, give, allow, focus, aim, among others. But I like to say that the inanimate objects do have a limited vocabulary depending on the situation. They can show, present, demonstrate, include, or indicate. So sometimes substituting these verbs with the object will help you not be giving a human quality to an inanimate object. So here I gave you some examples. The results showed a relationship. The table presents information. These data demonstrated. Remember, data is plural. The limitations included. The theory indicates. So think about if the verb that's being used is something that the subject or the object can really do. So a thermometer can measure temperature. Survey can measure attitudes. The tree bore fruit. The light illuminated the hallway. So those kind of things. So we can use the active and the passive voice to help solve the problem of anthropomorphism. So a study cannot deduce, only people can deduce. So in this case, we can substitute the author's names, so we have people doing the action. So we can say Jones and Miller deduced that without intervention, obesity trends will continue to rise. A study can't create anything, only the researchers or the investigator can create something, so we can either use the passive voice or the active voice. So in this case, I have 3 scenarios for microsimulation were created. Put the citation at the end. Or here I use the author's names in the running text citation, and I have that first. So Jones and Miller's created 3 scenarios. So one of the traps that we fall into is we say the paper will discuss. The paper doesn't have a brain, it can't speak, it can't discuss anything. So we need to use the passive voice. So we can flip the sentence around and say 2 methods of treatment will be discussed in the paper. Same thing with focus. Objects can't focus on anything, only people can. So what we need to do is, instead of having focus be a verb, we're going to make it be a noun. So we can say, in this model, the focus was on the faculty. Or, to streamline the sentence a little more, the focus of this model was on the faculty. So here I've got some examples, which I will leave for you to look at most of them yourselves, but I just wanted to go over some of the more common problems that people have. So research can't suggest anything, so online learning also became more of a viable option as research suggested continued improvement in both learning and teaching, both teaching and learning outcomes. So we can change this to be online learning also became more of a viable option with continued improvement in both teaching and learning outcomes. So again, only people can suggest, so we can't say best practices in online learning suggest having multiple ways to access information. So we can change this to include instead. So best practices in online learning include having multiple ways. Again, objects can't provide anything, only people can, so the substitute word can be presented. And here's another example. Technology provided users the opportunity. So here we can say technology presented the users the opportunity. So here's another one with provide. Instead I changed provide to have. So the development of new or improved vaccines should be safe, effective, and have lifetime immunity. Again, only people can allow. So instead of having the object doing the allowing, I have distance learning is different from traditional or standard classroom training because the students are able to interact. So here I've got students interact synchronously through the means of technology. Again, objects can't allow, so I'm going to have an introductory phrase, and then I'm going to have the educator doing the action here. So with self-assessment, the educator is able to reflect on the amount of work needed. So again, objects can't allow. So here I turned this sentence around and had people doing the action. So one advantage of online courses is that instructors are able to teach complex clinical situations. Objects can allow, so the learning management system Canvas allowed for tracking. So here's this phrase is used for. This is one of my go-to phrases for substitution. So the learning management system Canvas is used for tracking. And then instead of allows in this one, we can use presents. So understanding this culture presents a positive interpretation and application of learning styles. So here's another one with allows. So objects can't require anything, only people can require. So either we can change this from a verb to a noun and say there's a requirement, or we can use the passive voice. And here I've got an introductory phrase with educational institutions and accrediting bodies. Instructors are required to evaluate their teaching skills. So this is actually more precise by having the people doing the action. So again, only people can require. So, however, with the process of dying, many clinical decisions are required, including termination of life support. So objects can't enhance anything, only people can. So here is my is used to, so this is the past tense, were used to. So furthermore, tools and resources such as software simulations and simulating techniques were used to enhance learning. Objects can't support, only people can support. So here I used my is used to phrase. Technology shifts the learning from being educator-centered to the learner and is used to support a learning-centered approach to instruction. So again, only people can demand. So I changed the sentence here. I have an introductory phrase with best practices in blended learning. Learning objectives must be assessed. So this is the passive voice here, in a manner that ensures higher level thinking skills have been achieved. So objects can't give, so I changed it to present. Objects can't offer, so here I used my is used to phrase. Objects can't afford anything, only people can afford. So here I changed this entire sentence to, with short-term medical missions, there is an opportunity to engage communities, students, and stakeholders in collaborative education. Okay, so I am going to stop here, and then I just want to remind you that these PowerPoint presentations are available to you, and especially this one might be a good one to go back and look at it when you have more time to digest the information. So I'm going to stop here, and I'll pick up with numbers in my next video.